that's why for us it's important to be in the rights business.
Yeah. So being in the rights business is then you own what, a percentage of the publishing?
No, so
Or,
we're going to be in the master business, so like record label. So it's like,
okay.
our job with Jake, and we're going to set up a label with Elderbrook, is to then sign artists or sign singles where we'll have rights to those singles for like 15 or 20 years, and it doesn't matter if like that person leaves us or does whatever. With a label, we've got rights for 15, 20 years.
So on the masters, that's basically just to give a sort of super quick lesson in how these rights work. I know they're very complicated, and there's
No, I can explain in the most
explain, because this is quite
proof
educational
Yeah, sure.
for like how the music industry works. And
Yeah.
when I've tried to look into it, it's been a bit complicated. So it's interesting to hear.
So what would you like me to explain first?
So what are the rights? Because for understand, there's one for the where it's recorded, who's sung, who's produced it, who's
Of course. So initially you have record label, right? Own the master is kind of, if there's a pie chart, and for one song, 100%, right? So the artist, let's say Die, is signed to Layla Records, right? Then Layla Records owns the master recordings. Layla Records will then do a deal with you and say, okay, Die, we're an independent label. We'll do a deal 50-50. So then it's like you have 50% of the master, we have 50% of the master, and that's how it kind of works. And as I was explaining to you earlier, if we do 1 million streams on a song on Spotify, that equates to $4,000 in income, just like layman's terms.
Right.
So then,
is that always the case?
It is always the case.
Right.
Yeah.
So 1 million streams,
Spotify.
£4,000
on Spotify. Yeah.
Okay.
So then, if we're on a 50-50, you're getting £2,000 per million streams, and we're getting 2,000. The 4,000 goes to the rights holder. So we're the rights holder. We're the record label, but we've done a deal with you 50-50. Because that's like an indie deal, would be 50-50.
So then you distribute her.
If we're just a it depends. Like distribution companies, you might be 70-30 in your favor, or 80-20. If we're just a distributor. If we're a major label, if I'm Warner or Sony or Universal, you would be on 20 or 25%, and I would be on 80 or 75%. Because in that situation, I'm giving you an advance. It's a recoupable advance. But I'm giving you, say, here's $100,000. You've got to recoup that before you then see any money. And then once you've seen that money, this is the rate. So artists like Drake or Taylor Swift or other massive artists have taken enormous advances from their labels, but then their royalty rate is much lower because the label's got to recoup the money.
So does the label get 100% of the money back until it's fully recovered, and then it's split 80-20 or 50-50?
Exactly that. So like with, say, like Drake, for example, Drake took, I think, 200 or 300 million pounds from Universal, and then the rate he's on is something like 80-20 in their favor because they've got to recoup that money back quickly. Right. But if he hadn't taken a huge amount of money...
But that's after they've recouped. So they get 100% until they reach the 200 million.
Yeah, and then 80-20.
But for him, he's laughing because he's already been paid.
But that's it. Yeah, but it depends how... Some people don't want the big check. Some people just want to get the money paid through straight away.
Right.
So it depends how you want to structure it.
So when you say you want to get into the rights business, you want to become a record label that then records the artist, and then you own a part of that master.
Well, yeah, we want to become the record label so we can build up catalog. So it's about, we want to have 20 singles, 30, 40, 100 singles signed to us. So it's like, we want to accumulate masters. So in terms of rights in master recordings.
So that's the master recording. And then how does the publishing work?
We're not a publishing company currently, but publishing works in terms of collecting income every time a song's played on radio, every time a song is synced.
But that's for the master, right? That's paid to the master.
No, that's separate. That's separate.
Okay.
So publishing and master are completely separate. So publishing deals with who's written the song.
Yeah.
Master's just about you've come to us with this song, we like it, we want to sign it. We're not interested in who's written the song, who's done what. That's
one income stream.
Yeah, we're interested just in the master income stream.
And that's just paid by streaming.
That's just streaming. Yeah.
Okay.
So we're just interested in that.
And then how do the publishing guys get paid?
So publishing gets paid. It's hard if you're a songwriter. It's hard, you know. But publishing is you get paid on radio. So every time a song's played on radio, every time the song is synced on TV or film, you get paid. Every time the song is played in a performance, so the bigger the venue, the more you get paid. So if I'm playing in a stadium, then the performance income there is very big. If I'm playing in a pub, you still get performance income.
But they don't get paid anything from the stream.
They do get paid from the stream, but it's a lesser amount.
Right. So the big money's in owning the master.
On the streaming side, but then at the same time, if you have a radio hit, you can make enormous money on the publishing side.
Okay.
You know?
So there's multiple streams, each paid to different people who've played different part in each record.
Exactly that, yeah.
Right, interesting. And what was your first big hit?
My first hit was a song called Wearing My Rolex with Wiley in 2008.
Right.
So yeah.
I remember that.
And
That's
it was
my
my first, and we were finding Madonna for #1. It got to #2. And it was the first time I was like just thrown at the deep end and was like, had to just very quickly sink or swim and learn how to, work in, like, understand hits basically.
And was it easy to then navigate how to collect all the money from it? Or
no,
that was like a quick lesson?
No, I didn't know. I didn't know what I was doing. You know, like I look back at like a lot of things I did back then, and I was out of my depth. But I knew I'd been given this opportunity. I had to figure it out. You know, there were times I was like way out of my depth, but at the same time I had to quickly understand how to keep up at this level, or I wouldn't be able to operate at this level.
So what happened in the immediate aftermath of you dropping that tune?
The immediate aftermath, the song became enormous. Wiley went on tour with Jay-Z, like tons of opportunities. We had to then quickly make an album. Yeah, but it was just like frantically trying to make an album, you know,
right.
and you know,
to like
we had to
capitalize on the success
on the moment, and you know, we kind of like ill-advised him to put out the next single, which didn't do as well. And again, it was just kind of like I don't think I was in a place where I didn't, you know. I obviously now like I could do that with my eyes closed, not in an arrogant way, but because I've lived enough life and I've done it enough times that I understand. Kind of, I feel like I know what would the right moves would be.
So what would you have done different if you could go back in time with current knowledge?
I think what I would have done different is bring different people on board, production-wise, like idea-wise. Yeah, I think there's other people, interesting people I would have brought into the mix, and I would have like focused more on trying to make an iconic album as opposed to sort of just trying to have hits. You know, I think when you try and chase hits, it kind of can come across that way. Versus if you do something authentic, it will come across as that.
So what did you do then? You just tried to make hits, and
I think I tried to make records with him because I was heavily in the studio with him at that time.
Right.
With Jake Gosling and some other people, and I was with him in the studio every day, and it was just like trying to kind of manufacture records that perhaps weren't as authentic.
So you're just trying to go for commercial success as opposed to like try to make a tune that's bubbly.
Credible songs where it's like this speaks to something. Like I don't think there were like 2 or 3 songs on that album that spoke to something or felt like exciting. But I think most of them were just throwaway songs that we thought, well, this could be a hit, you know, as opposed to like doing things that felt like culturally, you know, I often think to myself when I see these lists of like most important sort of British rap albums or this, I'm like, you know, we should have had one of those, you know, and we should be in that chart. I've definitely got singles that would be in that, but I don't feel that we made a definitive album, and that's something that always bugged me.
Because at that time, when he made Wearing My Rolex.
Wear My
Rolex.
Yeah.
He must have been, that was off the back of like years of being a grime MC.
Oh yeah, but he'd created a movement, a culture. He wasn't a new artist, but that was
so he must have already had like lyrics in the library bank,
yeah,
whatever.
He's a genius, you know, but it just was. He'd always kind of been amazing at making moments in time, as opposed to like bodies of work. Like he, you know, it's like, I think we made incredible singles, and there was one album where it was like, I felt, yeah, one of his albums we had 4 or 5 top 10 hits on, and you know that would have been an iconic album, but he decided to leak it. But that was the closest I think we came to.
Well, and
really,
and does that mess it up if it's leaked?
Yeah. Because like everyone just had it for free online a few days before it was about to drop.
Right.
So then no one's going to go and buy it because they've got it.
But do people still buy?
No, but
music?
this
At
was
that time.
This was
there was
12
still
this was
people
12
buying
years ago.
CDs and stuff.
Yeah, I mean now physical product is a big thing. Yeah, physical product accounts for probably 60% of sales now. Vinyl's
Really?
vinyl's back in a huge way. Yeah.
When you say 60% of sales,
So when you see the first week album sales of like, okay, Taylor Swift's at number 1 or whoever's at number 1,
yeah,
Playboy Cardi, whoever's at number 1, it's like, well, probably 50-60% of their sales have come from people going and buying the vinyl version of their album.
because no one's buying CDs anymore.
No, not really.
So
but
people still buying vinyls. Come back.
Vinyl's back in the biggest way it's ever been, but people want vinyl to have in their house, not
Right,
necessarily play, but
It's like iconic.
but yeah, it could be like it's framed on the wall or it's just in a bookcase or whatever it is, you know. And it's like that's
I'm surprised at 60%.
It
So,
might-
so what's the
it might be more.
40%?
Streaming is streaming account. It might actually be more,
But it can't be 1-for-1 stream for.
It's not. It's not. But
it's like some ratio of like 10 streams equals 1 sale or something.
no, it's more like 1,000 streams
right.
equals 1 sale. So yeah, or 100 streams equals 1 sale. I can't remember the precise.
Sure.
amount, yeah.